everybody. My name is John Ruddy. I'm that dentist guy. I'm with Mike, and you know what? I just gave you this nickname. You're the dentist guy. Everything I ever learned about dentistry, I learned from Mike here. But today we're going to go through just real briefly. What we want to do is, Mike, you and I. Would you hold up that card?
Oh yeah,
We talked a little bit
It
about a
was
card.
the little
Yeah,
yellow card.
yeah, and basically, it's got some key benchmarks that can help you to really make some good decisions in your practice. So I want to get into those percentages of those six categories. And Mike, I want to throw it to you because there's a few categories as you're looking at your profit and loss of
Right.
like you're like, okay, well, what am I looking at? I see all the stuff here, but what really matters? Talk to us a little
Right.
bit about that, and how can
Okay.
we look at our profit and loss and go, okay, oh, I actually know what I'm looking at.
Okay, and I don't think it'll take very long, but one of the times we were doing a video, we started kind of talking about the yellow card and that these KPIs, these numbers that you need to look at to really run your practice could be dumbed down to about 12 or 14 numbers. And we kind of talked last time, you have your practice management software, which we can get that. And I think let's add this to that too, is that, and because I have had this happen to me too, where I'm taking notes and I'm trying to learn something and I want to act on it. Okay.
Mhm.
But then in the backside of my brain, I'm going, I'm already so darn busy. And, it's just this mountain of stuff I need to do. It's like, your mail piling up that, or magazines, dental magazines, you you want to read and you don't read. And I've gotten now where I look, I'm going to get them. I go through them. I just tear out the ones I want to read, staple them. I put them in a pile. And if I don't read them in a week, I throw them away. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You develop these deals. So we were trying to make this easier for you to self-diagnose your practice. And so we talked about those things in your software, but we also, and that's kind of the income side of it, okay? But we need the outflow side of it. And many of us use a profit and loss statement. And we made this comment that a profit and loss is not a profit and loss because it does not include any of your debt payments. Okay, now, for example, if you bought a practice and you're paying it off to the bank, that's not in your P&L. And you and I both have had clients call us and say, I don't understand this. The CPA says I've got this much money. I don't have that money. And I
Right.
went, well, of course not, because there's no debt, taken away from it down there. He goes, I don't understand. I thought it was profit and loss. I know. I don't know why they picked it for that name. You need a cash flow statement, something that just, okay. Now, so what I ended up doing, because I didn't understand it. I'm frustrated. I have to keep it real simple. I just took Peachtree, Quicken, QuickBooks, whatever you're using, and just rearranged it and put my debt in there. Now, the CPA is going to go, well, that's not a gap, a generally accepted accounting principle. I don't care. I'm doing that. They want that profit and loss statement is purely for taxes. And so just tell them, I want a cash flow statement, or I want a P&L that has my debt in it. And when they pay quarterly taxes, they can do it.
Yeah.
So I took the 100 line items that you see in a P&L and dumbed them down to 7 categories. Okay, we're going to start with the 7th, and then I'll go back and okay. And what I'm trying to do is, one, create a document that at a glance I can tell what I'm doing. Now you need to glance at it every week. Okay, so don't let me forget to tie this together at the end
Yeah.
about how
Okay.
you might make that happen. So the 7th category is anything that was spent on you or for you or by you in the form of pay, benefits, malpractice, your car, a storage unit for records that just happens to have a bass boat in it. I mean, anything at all. Really, you're paying your wife to write checks. All of that is fine. We're not going to change what we write off. I just want to put it in a bottom category, and this is the way we're going to organize it. We're going to take these 7 categories and maybe in a 14 font, bold, we're going to list those, and we're going to keep all the line items, but they're going to be maybe a 10 font, not bold. And then the totals for each of those 7 categories would have total. That would be in bold. They have the money, and it'll have a percentage. A lot of people get a P&L. It doesn't have the percentage of these categories, just the dollar amount.
Yeah.
And then I also want you to have one line item at the end that compares last year's to this. So we're looking at January this year. We can also January of last year. All the time we get calls from people in August or September. Oh my gosh, people found out I'm a horrible dentist. I'm going to go bankrupt. No one's coming in here, stuff like that. It's a horrible month, September was. And you go, well, how did you do last year? They don't know.
Yeah, I have no
idea. And they look and they go, oh, it was really, really bad. Yeah. And so did you do better this year? He goes, I did. Okay, well, then stop feeling bad. Okay, so we'll get it down to these 7 categories. And keep in mind, I'm organizing this in a way that I can take the percentages and share that with my team. Okay. I want them to understand a little bit of the business of dentistry. And I will say this, if you can do this and then teach this to your team. I teach a Sunday school class of about 300 high school kids in church. And I've learned more teaching this to another person than I ever did trying to learn it just for myself. Okay? So I'm just telling you, this is a 75-year-old guy telling you, just there's not a shortcut way to success. You have to pay the price. Okay. So let's just talk about these 7 categories. The first one is the owner stuff. Now, yes, those are things you could write. Yes, they were expenses, but you chose to spend that money on your automobile or that storage unit or whatever it was down there, your life insurance, your disability. Okay. Now let's go back to the real overhead, which would be 6 categories. And there's not any order, but originally 40 years ago, 50 years ago, when I did this, I labeled these 6 categories with these topical names. You can change them. And I'll tell you what I put under each one of them real quickly. First one was compensation. The reason I put that up there is when John and I look at practices, if there was one line item that is way out of line, it usually is the percentage you pay your team. Okay. You've either got, I'll do that in just a second. Okay. So what would be under there under compensation? Okay. It would be all your employees. Now, this is going to sound weird, but if I consider my CPA to be an employee, it's a part-time employee. I'm sorry, you're paying them. I put them in that category. My attorney would be there. If I factored my account or had a third party that did my insurance verification, right?
Right. Yeah.
I put them there. I've hired this employee. I spent money on someone to do that. And your CPA is not going to like this, that I put them as an employee, but that's where they were. Okay, so I put that in there. So it would be their pay, the taxes, workman's comp, any benefit for them, which might be uniforms, staff meeting cost, bonuses, and John, help me here if I forget something, but
do you have any insurances or anything like that? 401k?
Yeah, 401k. Yeah, that's any benefits, stuff like that. Anything all you paid them. I mean, even if let's say something weird happens and you just buy a gift for one of your staff, or you fix something for them that they couldn't afford to fix. I put that in there. Okay. That was my staff. Okay. Now, next category was facility. The reason I put facility is of the 6, compensation is usually the one most out of line, and facility is next. Under compensation, before I go into facility, let's say, give you a benchmark. If we're going to include the attorney, if we're going to include the CPA, it should probably be around 28%. Okay. If you don't include them, it should probably be around 25%.
Yeah.
Okay. But let's say it's 40%. Okay. And pretend, instead of being a doctor, you're one of our employees. And I explained to us, look, our overhead is at 40% for staff. Should be, what should we do? Okay, now think about this. If that was way off, there are only a few things you could do. One, everybody gets pay cut. Okay. Two, we get rid of somebody, right? I mean, that's kind of a pay cut too, but we lower the number of employees that are working for us. Three, hey, we could actually collect what we produce because that would give us more money and that percentage would drop. We could produce more and that, but since it's a fixed cost, it doesn't vary much every month. Then if you do 100,000 one month, but you normally do 70, the month you do 100, that percentage is real low. Okay, there's only so many, but I need the team to understand the dynamics of the business of dentistry. Facility cost. This is a little bit more complicated, and this is probably the one line item that I probably have messed up. Not what I put in it, but what I named it. Facility would include, like if you bought a practice, your payments for the practice went under there. Your rent, your utilities, your telephone, the insurance on your property, taxes, property taxes, your security system, the internet, large equipment purchases, repairs and maintenance. If I had a guy cleaning the office, okay, that would be there. Okay, but what we could do, I can send you a link, John, to a YouTube deal I did with CPAs. I'm trying to explain to them this stuff about it, and they'll go, well, why does that go there? Okay, so maybe I could send that, and that would help you do this. The idea, though, is right now you're listening to something that can change your life. You will have wasted 20 or 30 minutes of your time if you don't act on this. And when I say act, I mean like today, in the morning. Okay. So we've got the personnel, the compensation, we've got the facility, dental supplies should be around 6% or less. Lab should be 8 to 10. Now, when John and I look at these things, sometimes we don't have some point of reference when we see the profit and loss statement. We see people with a really incredibly high dental supply, and maybe we look at the lab and it's only, instead of being 8 to 10, it's 4%. Okay. Now, just so you understand how people that do this for a living think, I'm going, you know what, I'll bet this guy's got an E4D or a CIRAC machine, and the cost of the machine itself isn't under lab, it's somewhere else. Because and your CPA doesn't even know when you, if you let them code their checks and put them in the category, they're put about half of them in the wrong category. And the dental supplies are high because the milling blocks and the burrs and stuff to make it are there. What I'd like to do is put it under lab so that I'll understand if you said no, my dental supplies really are 8% and my lab is really 4%, that says something to us too. We've either got a doctor, if we look at lab, that is non-assertive and not diagnosing comprehensive dentistry, or they're in a demographic where maybe the average age is 28 or 30 and they don't need crown and bridge, or they're in a demographic where maybe the income level is 26,000, 35,000. They can't afford that kind of dentistry. All of these numbers mean something. And so, again, if you're self-diagnosing yourself, be aware that the number one reason you don't have, large production and you don't see an 8 to 10% is you're not presenting the dentistry. Okay. So, we've got the compensation facility, lab, dental supplies, marketing. It would be everything that you use the cost of doing any type of marketing. And I have doctors say, yeah, well, what about my LED sign and I've got a lease purchase on it and it's out, that's going under marketing. What if I support a baseball team? That's going under marketing. What if I do postcards? What if I do anything you do for marketing? If you send gifts to a patient, I put that under marketing. You make a donation, that's marketing, anything at all. Can you think of any other marketing thing?
We're going to list of 170 different marketing things, but anything that you do that either is a thank you to a patient or attracts patients or anything like that. Yeah, that's
right. Well, and again, I have a lot of folks that give to their church.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I put that under marketing. So
And you know, like one of the things you did all the time is you had like a flower bed outside, like
oh,
that would
that's
attract people
great.
all the time. And like many people would put that under facilities, but that's a marketing cost. That's, you know, attracting patients and that sort of thing.
You ought
So
to. I'll send you a picture of that, and you can send out a
yeah,
photo of that because literally I spent maybe $7,000-8,000 once or twice a year to change that, and all day long, women, since they make
yeah,
92% of all the appointments, okay, like what is this flower? What is this?
yeah,
So we
yeah.
took a photograph, put it out in the front deal, and the guy that did it was a patient, and he labeled everything because I didn't care. I didn't know. But it was marketing, and I hadn't thought about it in a long time. That wouldn't be under facility; it went under marketing. So sometimes it's a little bit counterintuitive, but we're trying to gauge: am I getting a return on my investment, or is the overhead item for this or that? Uh, the last thing is office supplies, right? And I think that's it. Did I name six?
No,
Okay,
yeah, that's yeah,
okay. Those are the six. Everything in your P&L will fit in there. And John, I actually have an old client's P&L with the name and stuff gone. And then I have it where he changed it over a cash flow statement that might help some of your clients, because I know you've got a lot of people that will ask questions, and sometimes that picture will give them
yeah.
an idea. Now, when they formatted it in the new form, I would have changed a few things. And
Okay,
so I'm just going to mention those real quick and then we're done. Okay.
yeah,
One, we already said this. The categories will be bold, larger fonts so you can see them. The totals for each of those would be bold, larger fonts, and they would have the dollar amount and the percentage.
yeah,
Okay. And lastly, there's a column that has the same categories, same line items for that month a year ago, just so
yeah,
you can kind of always be, uh, you're not competing against me, you're not competing against the guy next door, you're competing against, am I better this year than last year?
right.
And again, it's okay if one eye, in fact, I've had people go, well, I put all these 100 line items under there. If you look at dental supplies, and let's say it's 8%, but it's been running a little bit below 6%, and it's 8%. Now we look below and you go, oh, I know what happened. One of my x-rays died. I just ordered it from Shine or Patterson or Benco or somebody, and I just put in their dental supplies. Now, again, it allows you to write off 100% of that right then. CPA doesn't like that, but that happens, and you go, nothing to worry about. It was a
Yeah,
one-off thing. Okay.
right.
Or, one of the categories, like the marketing. Okay, we do something twice a year that we don't do any other time, but it'll still average out to be, in the ballpark of 3 to 5%. Now, that income expense template thing that they can get from you has, boom, the stuff out of your computer, practice management computer, and the stuff out of your P&L, and a goal or benchmark on the right-hand side. Okay.
Yeah,
And that can be used if you're an ortho practice, a pedo practice, because we slightly changed it, but not much. I mean, 90% of that will work for anybody. Okay.
yeah. And and you mentioned the importance of looking at it every day. Because I think a lot of doctors they do this either once a month or when a CPA decides, oh
Yeah.
hey, today's the day I sent you your P&L, but do you want to mention anything else about that?
I do. Thank you for reminding me. And this is a sore spot for me, because if you do watch that video, I actually bumped heads with these CPAs at a deal we were all speaking at. Now, I didn't seek them out to bump heads with them. I'd spoken the day before and I was there, and they came over and said, how do we do? And they were really good on the stage, really some of the nicest people I know. But I'm going, and John knows I'm not a real, I don't, I
Not tip.
probably open my mouth before I engage my brain. Okay. And so if you're going to ask me a question, I'm going to tell you the answer. I mean, it's like I've got some type of bad social deal. Like, yeah, it really sucked. I mean, I didn't say it that way, but I said, there were some things I didn't like, and it's not you, it's every CPA.
Yeah.
We need, and I just tried to explain, we need a document that is easy to read. We can see it every day if we want to. And it's centered on, 12, 14 things that drive our practice. Now,
Right.
I understand it's not going to be like you were taught to do as a CPA, but I guarantee you, they started having their clients do it, and to a client, their income increased 15 to 20%. Now,
That's not shocking.
okay, well, I did. It is to the CPA.
Yeah. Yeah. For them. Right.
Okay, and now because they didn't know what was important in dental practice to create value and profit, they were just telling them that you have profit or you don't have profit. Not,
Right.
Okay. And these guys are advisors now. They understand that. Now, what do we do about seeing it every day? Regardless of where you go, because you don't have to have a dental specific CPA if you use the numbers we're asking you to look at. Okay. So, but let's say you have somebody and it happens to be your uncle and you can't change, and then I would demand that you have online access to your account any day you want. Okay. And in preparation for that, I would like you for 1 month, possibly 2, and I want you to code all of the checks into these 6 categories so they know where to put them exactly. Okay, not just the 6 categories, but the 100 categories, because some of those will be under the main ones. I want to make sure that that is accurate, because when we ask you to do something, or John asks you to do something, we're basing some of this on what we see, but a lot is on what's in the practice management software and in your P&Ls. And if it's always interesting, even in the practice management software, if you look at, I don't know, what's a popular one? EagleSoft, Dentrix, something like that. Okay, so like Dentrix, they have a report called a practice statistics report that gives you the number of patients by zip code, by age, male, female, insurance, no insurance, new patients, active patients that don't currently have an appointment. A real important thing that you need to look at every week or two. Okay. EagleSoft is a patient analysis report. Still has the same thing. If you have Open Dental, it doesn't have that, but you can look up patients by zip code. Why would you want to look there? So I can do my marketing. Patients by age. I want to make sure the demographics in my practice reflects the demographics outside my practice. Okay. Male to female, insurance, no insurance. Active patients that don't currently have an appointment is hygiene. I mean, and I will constantly see 80% of their patients don't have a continuing care appointment. So that's going to affect your overhead. And what's really weird is they will say you have 3,000 active patients, but you have 1 hygienist. So what that tells John and I is that all of your staff don't know how to use the software. We're not, I don't want to use the word deleting, we're, what's deactivating? Yeah, we're not deactivating patients that aren't active anymore. And so if the data is wrong in that report, then every report you look at will be wrong too.
That's
you
true.
have to input data. So back to the CPA, we have to input accurate data so we can take and do this. Now, last thing, we created a mountain of things in if we connect these 2 little videos we did. I want you as a doctor to remember that when we first talked about the practice management software, you don't have to do any of those. You can delegate that to a staff person, and you merely take the data they hand you and you can look at it and put it into this format. So that's not going to take any of your time. You just learn, or they learn how to gather that for you, and you've got it. And instead of paying some data mining group $2,000 a month, they are actually doing their job and helping you. Okay. On the CPA deal, if we reformat it 1 time, okay, it's perfect. And the CPA will see your grow, and they'll be open to it as you do it. I can't think of anything else that doesn't go real deep here, but helps you get started, that I need to talk about that.
So
maybe, John, do you ever run anybody that I mean, they really are in trouble. And maybe they can't afford to have you help them in their office, but you wanted to leave them with something that would drastically rewrite their future. And it would be this: if you're using a CPA on just to do you P&Ls for monthly, I want the QuickBooks in your office, and I want you to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. If you did that and you wrote your own checks, and in less than 2 or 3 weeks, you would have so much more knowledge about where this money was going and
Right.
and you would deal with it. I mean, I know we had, and this is what I did. I saw a lady that had been working for a practice for 10 or 15 years, and she stole money.
Mm-hmm.
She shows up late, leaves early. And I told the doctor, you need to fire her. He said, well, I can't. She knows everybody in the community. I can't do that. I said, well, then do this. Pay her in $5 bills at every pay period. It took one time handing real money to her that they changed it. Now, I know this sounds silly and stupid, but I got to get you off top dead center. You've got to act on something, and organizing your into this income expense deal will drastically change how you work and look at your practice in a very, very simple manner. That, and the neat thing about this system is it doesn't matter if you do $30,000 a month or you do $1 million a month. It's the same deal, and we're still comparing percentages. So
that's true.
Anyway,
and I think you gain the confidence. I mean, I can't tell you how many doctors that I work with that they are so intimidated because they don't know the numbers. They're so intimidated because they're not an accountant, or they're not, they've got a lady, and there's I've met a lot of great team members who do a lot of great things. But they feel like they're held hostage by the team members because they're the ones that know the practice software and yada, yada, yada. And do yourself a favor. I mean, really, Mike just went through very quickly how to take control. We talked about getting your hands on the steering wheel on our last video, but really get your hands on the steering wheel, because when you do this, I came outside of dentistry. I had no idea what I was doing. They were like, hey, you can speak in front of people. We'll tell you what to say. I'm like, hey, cool, great. But over the years, what I have seen in the last, 1.5 decades that I've been doing dentistry and consulting, I've seen doctors, they come to me and they're like, they start giving either some suggestions, or they have that confidence of going, I know that when I look at my numbers, I'm teaching my CPA what I want to see. And if you're in that spot where you're just like, you feel like things are crazy, this is going to help a whole lot, because you don't have to live in a world where you feel like you're out of control. You actually can take these steps, just like Mike said, do the steps. Okay. And if you need help, give me a call. You've got my emails on here. Go to thatdentistguy.com. I'll help you out. But do the steps to put yourself in the driver's seat, because this is one thing right here actually could change your future for decades to come.
May I say one other thing, John? It's funny because in a bad way, funny that, the average dentist would go in to buy a brand new Corvette, and he'd have to borrow money to do it though too. That's terrible too. Okay, but anyway, he goes in and buys a new Corvette, and he goes, well, I need you to take the rear view mirror off and all the dials out. I don't need them. I'm a dentist. I drive by feel. I mean, it would be like that. You're driving $100,000 vehicle. You're driving $1 million vehicle in a dental practice, yet you don't have a rear mirror to look back to see, and you're not looking to get, you're going to run out of gas. You're over revving the engine, whatever it is. This allows you to do this the right way. And let me brag on John just a second, because I remember one of his wasn't his first clients, but a young couple. They were both dentists. They bought 2 practices in the same building. They had to break down the wall in between so they could connect them. It was a Medicare, Medicaid, Title 19 kind of practice on one side and a general practice on the other side. I mean, not know all the facts. I looked the facts at the time, but it's been years ago. And again, they were barely making enough money to pay their bills. Now, fast forward a year or two from that start date of they had no idea about anything. What was that practice doing?
Well, when we first started, they were doing $84,000 a month, and they were seeing between 2 and 4 new patients a month. And then we got them up within a couple of years doing right around 200 to 230 a month, and they were seeing 135 new patients a month.
Okay. And they sold that practice.
Yeah, I know that number too.
Yeah. And it was 3 with a bunch of zeros behind it.
That's right. That's
and
right.
it was growing 15 to 20% a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So again, you can take practices no matter where you are and take them to the next level. And then when I say next level, I'm not talking about going from $50,000 a month to $100,000, but it's a huge leap to go to 70,000 because now debt starts going away. You are learning things that you're going to have the rest of your career. So you have that in your quiver that you can pull out all the time. And so it makes an incredible difference as you do this. To implement these things. And if all the things I would start with, this is the area I would do it. Self-diagnosing your practice in a quantitative way that will grow with you. You won't have to change it. Once you set it up, it'll keep going. And then again, the higher level of this is sharing this with your team. And we can talk about that some other time. But I just want to make sure I bragged on you a little bit because John would never brag on himself. So anyway.
Mike, thanks again for just all the wisdom. I can't tell you how valuable what we just went through is for your ability to, as an owner, to take control of your practice. We talk about putting your hands on the wheels and really guiding your practice to where you want it to go. Without these clear indicators, it will be really difficult to make hiring decisions, make decisions about marketing, or should we expand, or should we not, right? And so I really implore you, go today, get one of your profit and loss statements and start putting all of these numbers in the categories, these line items in the categories we just talked about. And if you don't know what goes where right now, you just email me. We can set up a time, we can kind of do this together. But if you will do this, then you will start to see, it's kind of like the Matrix. At the end of the Matrix where Neo, like, just kind of, he sees kind of clearly what it is that's behind the scenes. You're going to see behind the scenes, and you're going to be able to make good decisions moving forward. So if you haven't gotten your profit and loss in 60 days, like Mike mentioned, I would call your CPA today and say, hey, I really need this document. I really need to have this on a more consistent basis. Set up the expectation that this is what needs to happen. And more than that, when we talk, or if you want to email me, I can send you a list of all the categories that all the line items should fit into, so that your CPA can put that in there for you. And it is going to take some partnership. It's not just going to be like waving a wand and be like, okay, now I've got this document, but partner with your CPA. And I just got to say, maybe your CPA is not fit to do your numbers moving forward. And if that's the case, then let's chat. We can make some recommendations. But doing these steps will give you the best chance for success moving forward. And I've seen every one of my doctors that have done this. They have taken their practice to a new level because they have been able to decipher the information, decode the P&L, and make good managing decisions moving forward for the practice that take them in a trajectory that they want to go. My name is John Ruddy. I'm that dentist guy. Thank you, Mike, very much. We will see you next time.